let's do a webinar on CodeceptJS. So let me start sharing my screen again. If you don't see my screen, just ping, because sometimes I can start talking and will lose control on the screen recording. But yeah, so my name is Michael Bodnarchuk. I am developing CodeceptJS. I live in Kiev, Ukraine, and also I develop other open source projects, and that's actually what I primarily do on my daily basis. So also I'm consulting for all those projects and for other web development stuff. And I do speak at conferences, and I'm working a few of startups on my own. So I mostly have development background, especially web development. I started as PHP developer, then I discovered Ruby. Then if you do some web stuff, you for sure know the JavaScript, so which is me. And some of my projects on testing transformed into something bigger than like test our website. It transformed to open source frameworks which I run. So what I always try to make is the tests for web applications that could be very simple for everyone to read and understand. So the tests should be easy to write. Yeah, this is I think pretty important for everyone. And tests should be focused on what's important. So, and yeah, it's really correlates with tests should be easy to read and write, because if you can read your tests, you can figure out, okay, this piece is important, this is not, maybe we can drop it out. And if you have ability to write tests fast, to see fast feedback from your actions, testing is really joyful, so you can be very productive, and you can feel really good for doing your work. And as a developer, I'm really like everything that can be automated, and automated testing is really nice. And okay, do you hear me? Hey. Hey. Okay, great. So everyone can hear me except Jack. So cool. Let's continue, because there was a message in chat about the sound. Okay, nice. So yeah, please, if you stop me if you have issues, ask me, because yeah, I'm just talking. I don't see any feedback, and chat would be very nice. Okay, so let's go to the next topic. Is about automated testing in general. So we do automated testing to check common scenarios which should be not changed from time to time. And what we actually want to achieve here is that current state of our application works as the same as our application in previous state. So that during the interaction, we didn't break anything on our website. So we do it to do the same checks from time to time, and we do it to ensure that our system works from inside, like white box testing, and outside, like black box testing. And you probably all know this common pyramid of testing. And yeah, it looks like there are lots of tests should be hidden inside of the box. And while it's also very important to be sure that software not just works as expected, that end user can work with the software as it expects to. So while working on CodeceptJS tests, we are primarily focusing on testing system from outside, from the user's perspective. We assume that internal system works okay, and we just want to make sure that using the interaction the interface provides us, we can do tests. Yeah, let's leave these layers in integration and unit to developers. They probably should write their tests. But let's also handle cases where developers can miss, or they do not take an amount of time to test those parts. Is end-to-end testing, or UI testing, or acceptance testing, or browser testing. Those terms are practically the same here. And yeah, there are some pros and cons on all these different testing layers. They should be understood where to use which. So if you can test more at unit level, you probably get more and faster tests. And if you have more tests on your end-to-end level, your tests are not so fast as unit tests, but they are pretty stable to internal changes. So there are always like pros and cons. You can just think about which tests would be effective in your case. But for now, we are focusing on UI tests only. So we have to deal that we write pretty stable tests to internal changes, but our tests are not really fast. They do not allow us to test the system in very detail, because some details can be hidden. We can work with system only through interface it provides us. And we need some really hard time to set up our running environment. So we need browser, we need web server, and so on. And yeah, once we decided that UI tests or end-to-end tests are pretty important to us, they're probably we take some time to investigate what tools are on markets that allow you to write those end-to-end tests. So I won't list all the competitors we have here, but CodeceptJS is a tool I'll be focusing today, and I'll tell, probably you will find out why it is better. So as most of JavaScript testing frameworks you probably know, which are Protractor, WebDriver, CodeceptJS does something pretty similar for all they do, but it actually integrates all pieces together. So you don't need to install different components to make your first test. So you don't need a test runner like Mocha or Jasmine. You don't need to install additional libraries. So you just plug in different few different packages. You write tests with unified API, and you get pretty fast feedback if you set up everything correctly. So the popularity of CodeceptJS grows. I hope it will be growing.
Okay, can we keep it down a little, please?
Sorry? Could you write to the chat? Okay. What was the idea behind the CodeceptJS? So some of these things I took from my previous project, which is conception, and this API I click, I fill fields. This is very BDD-like, and yeah, it was taken from there. And what's pretty pretty nice about it that it feels like BDD. It feels like how users. Oh, sorry. How you. I need to go back to the window. Okay. So it feels like BDD, but it's actually better than BDD because the Cucumber or our other BDD style frameworks, they actually expect you when you define your steps, like I open a page or I click, they actually expect you to define all those steps for each interaction you perform. While in CodeceptJS, the high-level steps are written in the pretty general manner, so they are very, very flexible. So in most cases, you won't need to define your own steps. But nevertheless, you can see this testing scenario. So everything focuses on this scenario, and you can actually read it and show the output to your management. So that's what it makes a high-level BDD language. And but that wasn't the main purpose for me to develop CodeceptJS, because yeah, there are nice APIs in JS. So if you test with Nightwatch or maybe WebDriverIO, you are also writing a pretty clean, pretty understandable scenarios. What was my main purpose to work on CodeceptJS is my understanding that there are lots of different testing backends in JS, and they are populating and emerging like every half of a year. So at the beginning we had like Protractor and WebDriverIO. Then appeared Nightmare. Then it appeared a Puppeteer. And the problem, if you try to stick with one backend, and at one point it will drop its support, it will be hard to you to switch to other, because all your syntax is already bound to this backend. So in case of CodeceptJS, you are free to switch. You're free to choose your testing layer pretty easily because the API is the same. And yeah, all these backends have their pros and cons, and we will talk about this later. So running one test on top of multiple runners was the main purpose to develop CodeceptJS. And another stuff, I'm probably the newcomer to JS, I didn't like here, is asynchronity, which asynchronous was everything. Like all calls to Selenium server is asynchronous, yes? And so we have to work on promises like on every call, which leads us to constant promise chains, and managing of this code was heavy and a big mess. So it's not so useful for newcomers to JS. It's not useful even for professional JS developers, because debugging such stuff is pretty complicated. So I tried maximum to solve this issue. I think I spent like 2 weeks just to understand how asynchronity works, how can I work around it, and how to make it usable so those tests would look like they're running in synchronous manner. But in reality, it's like promises which are handled one by one. So you don't see promises on when you write CodeceptJS tests, but they definitely are there, because yeah, it's JavaScript, promises are everywhere. So as I was telling about the CodeceptJS and its initial purpose, about the idea of multiple backends, it appeared that we should have different modules, or how it is said in CodeceptJS helpers, to which we run. So each helper represents its own running backend. And if you start CodeceptJS, you can probably feel not very comfortable, as we have lots of different options for you to start. You can start with WebDriverIO, you can start with Protractor, you can start with Nightmare, you can start with Puppeteer. And if you didn't work with any of those, you'll probably be very confused, because, which one should I choose? So if you have some testing background, probably you know about these tools, and probably you try to play with them. But if you don't, well, you will need probably to look into them. So let me go and overview. So in this chart, we see that WebDriverIO and Protractor, they're pretty similar tools, as they use Selenium server. So they operate on WebDriver API, which is standard, and browser test automation actually goes to the standard. So most of standard tools are driven by Selenium, by WebDriver API, and WebDriverIO and Protractor just provide different JavaScript implementation for those bindings. So if you think of WebDriverIO and Protractor, they both operate on Selenium. They both use the same API. So the problem with those, that you need Selenium server, then you need a Chrome driver probably, and to execute those tests. So this adds a bit of complexity for your system. So you need those tools to be installed and running. But the main benefit of it, because WebDriver is a standard, everyone tries to support it. So most of stuff you can actually do is there. So it's, I think, the most stable API right now. And if you want to have really big and long tests that last, WebDriver API is a good solution for you. Also, WebDriver API allows you to run execute your tests on cloud servers like Source Labs, Browser Stack, Mobile Perfecto, and others. Yeah, it's like a common standard. Everyone uses it, and you should probably too. But if you need something more lightweight, something that can just execute a test in some browser environment, you should look into Nightmare or Puppeteer. So those tools include everything you need to execute a test in a browser, but in themselves. So they actually bring you some binary of Chrome and allow you to run your tests without interacting with your system browsers. So they are built in, they are fast, they are simple to install, but as they are not running on the standard protocol, and they are actually tools developed by the various different teams, you're relying on just something which is not standard. So their API is not so widely used. But yeah, if you as those tools operating on something that are not your real browsers, they, for most cases, run faster and they're simpler. So Nightmare works on top of Electron. Electron is a framework that allows you to control your web page and even transform it into the desktop application. So it actually uses these internal APIs to make testing. While Puppeteer is a very new and nice tool which comes from Google Chrome, which uses Google Chrome browser, which uses its DevTools. You probably all work with DevTools, and now you can work with DevTools via a protocol, and Puppeteer works with this protocol to control your browser. And yeah, so in case of Nightmare and Puppeteer, we are always limited to Chrome browser only, because yeah, that's their single API. While if you work on WebDriver API, we use all the browsers we have, and even we can test, do mobile testing via WebDriver API, and CodeceptJS can actually do this as well, especially if you use Appium helper. But that's probably not the purpose of today's webinar. We will focus on web testing. So let's go on. So this chart is pretty heavy from start, yeah. But I think if you already have some days playing with CodeceptJS, you probably understand the general idea. So you are free to pick one of those helpers. You have to try to can switch between them and to see what works better for you. So we are trying to maintain helpers as a way that they will be pretty similar everywhere, but we do not guarantee that they will work everywhere the same way, because yeah, those APIs are pretty different on how they operate with browsers. So the problem is that CodeceptJS do not install everything for you. So if you install CodeceptJS, you can't start testing from scratch. You will be required to install at least one more package to go. Yeah, because if we go and install all the possible backends we have, you probably have a very heavy modules folder, which you won't be happy with, and you will have lots of stuff you won't be actually using. So if you install those backends, please make sure that they're actually installed, and that CodeceptJS can use them. And then, yeah, if you plan to run WebDriverIO, you also need Selenium server and Chrome driver, and so on and so on. Okay, so let's go to next slide. So finally, some code. So CodeceptJS actually brings testing to this level when you can just write line by line what I'm doing, what I want to see, what I expect, and so on. And yeah, this is pretty nice. So some people, especially for which are already familiar with JavaScript, they will probably ask why those methods are unchained, why we use this I everywhere. So the main purpose of it is to make tests readable. So everything would be followed with I actions, and that makes actually tests pretty clean and what is getting here. The next is that this idea of managing asynchronity. So each of those calls is asynchronous. It returns a promise, but you don't see it and you don't operate on it regularly. So only when you need some values to be returned from the browser, then you will get into the promise. So most of those calls won't return you anything. Only when you run a command which starts with I grab something, it will return you a value. So these calls are not chained because they do not return anything. That's the idea, except for grabbers. We will look into them in next slides. So so the overall ideas of CodeceptJS is to focus on testing scenarios and not on controlling a browser. Don't think about browser control, or at least think about it less. So focus on your test scenario, focus on your code, and make it readable, and so it could be reused, and it can survive the test of time, because yeah, the requirements change, the design change all the time. So the the less support code, the less browser API will be in your code, the easier and more stable your test will be. So some overview of basic features we have is that actually you can just copy some test parts, put it in the page object, get those page objects in a test, and reuse everywhere, every part. So refactoring is very easy in CodeceptJS, and that's, I think, one of the main features we achieve here. If you didn't know, we have this very strange, but I think very powerful stuff is translations. So if you work with your local website and you want, and there are lots of text in your native language, which you actually don't want to put into your tests, you can actually write your test in the same language. So this is a Portuguese example, and we will try probably to extend this feature, but I think it's pretty nice that it brings a full native testing experience to any language you have. And so if you're non-English speaker and you test your website is also not designed for English, try to use one of those translations. If you don't support your language yet, you can submit us a pull request with a new translation. And yeah, they're pretty simple, and they just work because JavaScript allows us to write tests in any language, in Cyrillic, in Chinese, Japanese, everything. So next feature which most of testing frameworks in JS do not provide us with is something for data management. And I was thinking about different approaches on how to do it, and it appeared that the most clean way to manage data in your tests is actually a public API, which commonly REST APIs. I really recommend using REST APIs to create some test data, remove it. That's because the API are pretty stable, they do not change. And yeah, if you work with them, and if you have a single page application which already incorporates those APIs, it's okay to rely on those API for testing. So you just send pull a post request in the beginning of a test to create some data. You send delete request in the end of a test to clean up those data, and you write isolated atomic tests. So it's pretty comfortable to go with. And we have some helpers you've probably seen for operating this. So there was some requests about, can I make a database calls directly to from CodeceptJS? And the answer is no, because if we do end-to-end testing, we shouldn't know anything about our system at all. We should only use the API, the public interfaces this system provides us with. So we have only web interface and REST API interface, and that's all. So we shouldn't control the data on this level by our own. That's why we have only this this stuff for REST API. And if you don't have REST APIs, okay, you will need to come up with something other, but I won't recommend it to do. So CodeceptJS have some very basic concepts you should be familiar with already or not. The first one is actor. This guy who actually does all the stuff, which opens a page, I am on page, which clicks a link, and this is the main persona we represent in our tests. I think it's pretty important to have this actor, as it really represents the end user, and you can actually follow themselves. So when actor defines some action, we don't know how those actions will be performed. So actor takes its actor transfers these actions to actual helpers, which will execute. So depending on your configuration, a different helper can be executed. So I click a button in depending on configuration can be executed very differently. So if you use Puppeteer or if you use WebDriverIO, those will be very, very different click implementations. If you have lots of actions that are repeating on inside tests, or there are some page elements which are repeating, you can put them in PageObjects and reuse them in your tests. And if you need some more and heavier customizations, you should look into hooks. So hooks allow us to get more and more control from your tests. So you can actually listen to all events that CodeceptJS fires when tests go on. You can add your own bootstrap and tear down script to start a server, start a Selenium. So this is very custom, and right now we don't provide anything like bundled info for those parts, but this API is public. You can use it, and you can use it for customization. So it's pretty advanced stuff, and you should go to it if you already have a good knowledge on JavaScript and how the Node.js actually works. So when you install the CodeceptJS, you get this CodeceptJSON file. So actually, we support alternative configuration which is concept.conf.js. And I recommend you to switch to concept.conf.js when you receive some, when you already have like some requirements about different testing environments and different options. So concept.conf.js is the same configuration, but unlike the JSON, it can be customized because yes, it's JavaScript. You can do everything with JavaScript, and it will give you the same config. So both of these options are correct, and by default, CodeceptJS installs this one. And there is a reason for it, because the JSON file is easier to update. And if you begin working with CodeceptJS, which we have lots of generators, which actually edit this file to add the helpers, add some page objects. So this file is easier to edit for those generators. But when you feel CodeceptJSON is not enough for you, if you need something more customizable, concept.conf.js is definitely your choice. So we have an output directory where tests will print their stuff. So each failed test will make a screenshot of last page it's got, and it saves it to output directory. So make sure you clean it pretty regularly and make sure you don't commit it to your repository. So it's temporary data, and so it should be used only for debugging purposes. There are tests, there are TypeScript definitions, which even if you don't use TypeScript, are really useful because they provide you with auto-completion. So all the steps are already will be provided you, so you won't need to guess or remember what is the step is here, because it's already will be shown by your IDE. If you need something more like page objects, custom helpers, custom actor, they all will be placed there. But just remember, I think the most important things here is your test, and they are prefixed with test, and they will be inside the test folder you actually created. So a few more slides about the theory. End-to-end testing. As you know, we have two options to run our tests, to run our browser. So in window, and yeah, Selenium server with Chrome driver actually allows us to do this. And Puppeteer and the Nightmare also allow us to run our test window, but this is not a primary mode. This is used for debugging purposes mostly. So Puppeteer and Nightmare works great, especially on continuous integration environment. On remote servers, we can execute them, and they will provide us with the results without starting a real browser in window. But same options actually goes for real browser started with Selenium server. So if you have a continuous integration server and you want to run your tests there, consider using headless Chrome or Firefox, or run your browsers with Docker, or using virtual frame buffer. So it's not so very popular option today. So for development, you definitely need a window mode. For a CI, you definitely need a headless mode. So if you use WebDriver and Protector, headless Chrome or Firefox or Docker are your choices. But if you want to simplify your things, Puppeteer or Nightmare should be a great start for you, because they are already headless and they still have window mode. So what we do actually in test. What we do, what our regular users do. We open pages, we interact with it with, so what is our interface? We can click, we can type in some values, and we can press some keys, we can operate with interactive elements, and we can do assertions. Unlike other languages, unlike other frameworks, our assertions start with the prefix C and don't C. So those are assertions, and we can actually assert that some elements on page are present, some elements are not, and that's what we actually check. So we do not assert that this page looks really like the page we expect it to. We can't have this kind of assertion. We can assert that some text is present, some element is present, but we do not do visual comparison nor visual testing, because it's pretty heavy overhead, especially if you test some business scenario. And such approach is more stable to design changes. So CodeceptJS allows you to, when you use command C, it's not a regular C with our eyes. It's something that, yeah, this text is visible on a page. So probably I should have called it I see visible text on a page, but it's overcomplication. So let's keep things simpler. And we have these wait commands, which are also very frequent use in JS. So because the page and its elements are not often rendered very fast, and because everything in JS is asynchronous, some elements can be drawn, some elements are not ready yet. So sometimes we need to explicitly specify that before taking the next action, I should wait for this element or for this text. And waiters will be your savior when you try to do some things in single-page application or in heavy JS application, where pop-up appears and button appears, disappears. So wait for those elements before interacting with them. So we should probably wait for all elements on page before interacting with them. This could be save our time in development, but it also takes time for execution. So we don't always need this command to be executed. We need this executed only when we know that this element will be rendered in real time. So don't put them too often, don't put them too much. And also we have another group of commands. I was already telling something about them, is grabbers. So those commands can take some values from a web page and which you can actually use in your tests. So they start with grab prefix, and they always need you to put a wait before this command to be used, which says that this should pose the promise chain. So this shouldn't be executed like a regular promise, and this should return value to a test, and then promises should go after this. So await is really, really important here, because we still work with promises. So there are different type of locators. So you probably know of CSS and XPath locators, which are heavily used in test automation everywhere. JS developers and JS QAs are probably use CSS locators. But CodeceptJS goes far beyond that. So we also propose you to locate elements, but their semantic values like button name, button text, link text, field name, field label, and so on. So when you provide us some locator, CodeceptJS tries to guess what is this, what this locator is a type of, and it tries to find an element which matches the best of this value. So this makes our test readable, but if you use such locators like button name, semantic locators pretty often, that can slow down testing in some cases. Because if CodeceptJS won't give any guesses about what type of locator it is, it will find element much faster than, oh, maybe it's a link, maybe it's a field. So yeah, this will be a bit slower. So good locators are short. So if you found the best short and stable locators, which is not really which is stable to change of design, which is stable to changes of data, you are pretty good to use it. So the best of would be to use ID of elements like texts on a page, which are seen by users, and so make sure those elements are stable. So go to your development team, go to your design team, and talk with them what anchor elements you should use in your tests to be sure that those elements will be stable to changes. So as you see, you can write all those locators. They all will work. Yeah, but the simpler is better. So yeah, you can do it, but better don't. And as I was telling before, that we are allowed to check that there's some text on a page, that there is some element on a page, that there is a title on a page, that URL of a page, maybe something in cookies, but actually that's all. We are limited to all those stuff each browser provides us with. And yeah, what I told that we need always to ensure that page was loaded, so all the elements we interact with are rendered, that all the JavaScript stuff also processed, so you can connect to the JavaScript engine of a browser and actually wait for it to ensure that all the JavaScript part was finished as well. And there is some other thing in CodeceptJS, which is called SmartWait, which allows you to wait for element if you specified them somewhere in test. So this is what I was telling, that if you click a link and it will try to wait a few more seconds before failing if this link is not visible yet. So SmartWait is actually a feature of Selenium protocol, Selenium server. So this won't work for Puppeteer or Nightmare because it uses Selenium implicit waits, and it's pretty simple. But yeah, we do not run those stuff on our own. We realize it uses those stuff on Selenium. And yeah, it's just like enabling wait 5 seconds in your config, and you have extra 5 seconds before a failure, which makes your tests a bit more stable. So finally, after like 50 minutes of talking, we get to some practice. I hope you're not bored yet, and our practical stuff today, we will work on booking.com. So I'm not working there, to be honest, but they have like pretty heavy form, and you're all familiar with that site. So we will do some action, and probably we do booking. So what do people else do on this site? Okay, I think I have prepared some. Oh, I will use a different terminal. So to make sure everyone sees my screen. So I will start with installing CodeceptJS. So I will install WebDriver and install CodeceptJS locally. So to be sure that I can use different versions for different projects, and for me as CodeceptJS developer, it's important to always use different versions of CodeceptJS. And also I include WebDriverIO from start, so to be sure that I can start writing my tests with WebDriverIO. So I hope it's actually you can repeat my steps if you will be fast, and if you already have CodeceptJS and WebDriverIO, and if you have Selenium and Chrome driver, so you can actually repeat my steps. If you don't have Selenium, the best way would probably to install this Selenium standalone package from npm, and then run these commands, and it will prepare the environment for you. For macOS users, you can also do the same stuff with Brew. So there are pretty a lot of options you can use, but yeah, we need to do these extra steps to ensure that Selenium actually started. So for my, I actually have the Selenium running. So you see Selenium is here. And but I won't show it here anymore to you. But for Puppeteer and Protractor, we can avoid this step and go directly to testing without installing this heavy stuff to control our browsers. So, okay, what's next? We execute conceptjs init. Okay, so hello, where do we locate our tests? So here is important that we are asked to choose our helpers. As I said, there are different helpers, and they work differently. It's you are expected to choose one. Well, actually, you can choose two, but please don't choose all of them, because you will get to a problem. Because see, you won't be able to see. You will have a conflict between those helpers, as the same actions can be performed differently. You won't be sure which helper actually you're using, and so pick one. So pick one of one kind. So pick WebDriverIO and probably REST, but don't pick all of them or few of them. So pick one helper you will be operating with. So the WebDriverIO is, yeah, it's okay. So output is okay. Will I use custom steps? Yes. Will I use some translations? Chinese? No. And custom steps, yes, here. And which site I will be testing? Okay, I will be testing booking.com. Browser Chrome. Okay, so yeah, it generated everything we actually needed. So let's see. There are pretty much files here, and I will use a Visual Studio Code editor to work with this. Okay, so I hope you all see the my screen. I think I can make it larger so everyone could. But we don't have any tests yet, so let's go to and create one. So we have a generator for test. File name booking. Yeah, feature is booking. Okay, let's go with it for now. So when I'm back to the editor, I see that there is a booking test, and it tests the feature booking. Book a hotel. Yeah. So we have a CodeceptJS config, which already have WebDriverIO helper configured. We have all this, and to start writing test, I don't have pretty much help from my editor for now. But if I run the if I write CodeceptJS dev command, it will generate a TypeScript definitions. So as it says, CodeceptJS TypeScript definitions, they provide auto-completion support. So I'm not sure of other editors. Yeah, you can actually use Atom, Sublime, or WebStorm. They all probably should support those, but they play very nice with Visual Studio Code. So they are inside steps DTS. And if I just add this line to my test file, I will see that I can see all the actions I can use. So wow. Okay, so now I'm very comfortable with writing tests, and I probably won't need even looking into the documentation to go further. So at first I am opening a main page of booking.com. So because I already specified in config that I'll be using this website, I need just to start with this. And then I'm typing a command pause, which actually will stop the execution exact in the same position and will allow me to work with the browser and try different commands. So let's see how it will go for us. So I will execute my tests with run command, and let's see how it goes. So yeah, the browser is starting, booking.com is open, and at one point when the page will be loaded, and the page is still loading, you see, I got the step that interactive debug session started. So this is very useful feature for debugging. I don't know if you used it yet, but I think it's one of the main features of CodeceptJS that you can pause execution at any step and do some actions on a page. So let's say I click. Oh no, sorry. I click flights. Oh, it clicked flights, but it opened another tab. Yeah, let's close current tab. Now, so we already closed the tab, and yeah, let's switch back to accommodations, because we actually don't want to book a flight from the booking.com. I book flights on other services. Booking.com is for hotels. So let's go to accommodations. Oh, anyways, so look, I'm switch to so the switch to previous tab. I think there should be one. Okay, let's run it again, because with these tabs it's pretty messy. But there is definitely a command to work with tabs in CodeceptJS, and you can switch between tabs, close them. But yeah, inside this interactive shell, probably not everything works very as expected. So, okay, where am I going? So probably actually I can just try to answer this question. If I try to field like where are you going with some value, I should receive I should see that are some options that I have, and wow, it works. So the question is how does it work? So there is no magic here. So as I said, CodeceptJS tries to locate element by their semantic elements, semantic values. So let's go to the browser, remove this stuff, and let's inspect this element. So its input with the placeholder. Where are you going? Yeah. So CodeceptJS found this element by this placeholder, and so it could put value into it. If you don't have some semantic elements and you don't have IDs, labels, placeholders, names, those elements won't be located so elegantly. So if you see Booking have a very nice markup, they have nice HTML we can work with and use these semantic elements. So if you don't have them, yeah, you can actually use CSS, or so what our options is like SS. So this element have ID SS. Can we type it like this? Yeah. So we can, you see, allocate element with a different way. So we can type it by the IDs or by their XPath. So let's go to this element once again, copy its XPath, and find element by XPath and New York. So I don't know which one would be preferred for us to start, but I'd rather start with this one because it's really the best for semantic. So it's makes our test readable. So when I start, I feel filled with my destination. Next, what I would like to choose is actually the check-in and check-out dates. And you see we deal with calendar here. So calendars are pretty tricky in automated testing, and you probably know it because clicking on all of these elements and choosing them, this is always a mess. And if we do it in the long scenarios, we always get to time problems because the calendars will display it differently depending on your current date. So let's always, when you deal with calendars, check what other options then to click its fields we have. Usually calendars provide us with some option to fill in the data with values without working with on interfaces. So let's go and see it. So let's see what is here. There is div and values inside of it. And actually, we see that there is input with the check-in months value. And there is input with day, check-in day. So actually, instead of working with the calendar directly, we could just fill in those inputs. And this is probably a very nice hack for testing. So yeah, sure, calendars should be tested, but it's not our current business to ensure that calendar works. So calendar tests should be unit tested, or I don't know, component tested, but we test business scenario, we do end-to-end testing. So right now we need just to make sure we can fill in those values. I propose to deal with these input fields instead of working with the real calendar, and let's put in some values there. So I field check-in months, and to be sure that I can still book some apartment, I would prefer plan my trip for July. Oh, I missed it. Okay, it actually filled value in. Let me go. Then I field check-in day by, I think this first is July. Okay. Okay, the field check-in day is not found. Let me look once again how it's actually called. And sorry, it's not so visible here. Okay, so check-in. Here it is. So it's sorry, I'm trying. The field actually is named check-in months day, and so I will field check-in. Actually, I will copy it just months day to 01. Okay, yes, and field check-in year, I assume, to 2016. Okay, so what's cool about Booking.com that this is pretty okay to pretty enough it needs from us to start. So we can specify on the check-in date, and then it will just add 1 day of staying. So we can go and click search to get to the next screen. So I'm clicking search, and I see a list of apartments for the New York City. So I can actually check it. New York City. Oh, yeah, it's on the page, and actually I can even check that New York City is ahead of this page. It's H1, inside H1. So I see New York City is inside H1. Okay, it works, but it's not inside H6 because there is no element H6, and it's not inside. It's somewhere inside element H. So yeah, New York City is definitely here. But for now, I'm pretty far. So I already got to the search page, and I need to copy these values into my test and to work with them. So I field check-in months. I field check-in day, and I field oh, not day. Day didn't work for us. Check-in months day. And field check-in year. And then I clicked search. I clicked search, and so so far so good. But the problem is that actually we can, and I see give if I let's switch back to New York. So, and I see okay, so that's my current assumption about the test. So I'm finishing running it. I press enter. The shell exited, and yeah, the browser closed. Let's try to work on this test I already put information on. So let's execute it and see the steps. So it opens a page. It feels okay. The page is pretty heavy with all these pop-ups appearing everywhere. And we have the first issue. The booking.com have constant A and B testing. So the page which appeared right now wasn't the same page we actually tried before. So there were no input element, where are you going, as you probably noticed. But with some luck, if you execute this test again, we see the same page, and there is a where are you going. Yeah. So now we can type in the value. But oops, this was just a syntax mistake in my code. Yeah, so the problem here is that I should be better prepared for this A and B changes and actually use not just semantic elements, but stable elements. So let's go. Okay, let's try. Okay, I will try once again, and I will pause execution to improve my test to be stable to this field value. So yeah, in this case, it says more places than you could ever go, which yeah, it isn't very stable to us. So how does it call it internally? It has the name SS or ID SS. So I would better stick with those names. I feel field SS is cave. And now I have a drop-down list, and they expect me to select this first item from the drop-down. Let's see how I can do it. What is this actually is technical? It's a Lee element with img element inside of it. So I can just use this data label attribute, and so I can actually specify this element by CSS. Click Lee data label Kyiv, Ukraine. So is it talk? Yes, this is how it works. Then I just continue. Oh yeah, where you're going won't be working for me. So let's replace this values, which those we discard. So if I type in Kyiv, then I see a drop down with Kyiv, Ukraine. Then I select it. I fill my dates. I click search. I see probably they expect to see Kyiv, and on the next page, and probably it will be in page 1. So this looks like a complete test. Let's see how it runs. So as we see, another layout. So those we had problems with. You see how it works step by step. Element not visible. Yeah, that happens because this is one of the problems we have, like asynchronity. So we typed in the value so fast that the pop-up with the fields listed was not displayed yet. So let's try to wait for it before interacting with it. actually, there is a lazy way to do it, like type like wait 2 seconds or wait 1 second. So to be ensured that everything works correctly. But if it takes longer, then the test will fail. If it doesn't, if it takes less than 1 second, we we make our test longer than we actually need it. And if it's one test, it's okay. But if you have a group of tests, they will this wait command reduces their speed of execution, which is pretty important for a big amount of tests. So I wait 1 or wait 2 probably work, but we should probably do something a bit smarter. So like wait for element to appear. So I wait. I don't actually know currently which element I'm looking for. So let me run it once again. I am typing in. Yeah, this booking.com should do something with their sites. It's so slow. It's have so many annoying pop-ups. So if you do testing, it's probably better to use a local environment for testing, so not to wait for all the stuff to be loaded. So we want this pop-up to appear. And let's go to see how it's called. See autocomplete. Yeah, and okay. Okay. We remove this one. We stop the test. Actually, I should. Yeah, then test goes on to after the post to fill in all other steps. I think I have some other issue, but I won't investigate it right now. So I wait for element and how to. Oh, I think it was called SS autocomplete, but autocomplete. But really, I'm not sure because I lost in my browser history. I remove the pause here. So let's try it this way. So I'm not so sure this will work, but let's go. Yeah. So the Selenium actually waits for a page to be fully loaded before interacting with it. So, oh, I didn't. I think I put incorrect this element. Let me try once again. Actually, I should just have waited for a few seconds for this demo. I'm not probably expected to write a perfect test today. So another screen, a different one, which I hope loads a bit faster. But it have like all the same elements: check-in, check-out, a search button. Okay, actually can click the stop. What will happen in this case? Oh, sorry. Okay, I should be more patient to watch what is happening here. Okay, so I don't want to waste your time, so I will put this just wait for 1 or 2 seconds, and it will go right here. But yeah, wait for element should work for you. But let's just don't waste our time in this. So Sorry. The element was not visible, it was not found, so I'm not sure why it didn't work. So I'll just copy my previous example, which I prepared. I think I something mistyped here. Is there any difference here? No. Any difference here? No. Very strange. So let's try again. So yeah, test development is always a bit tricky because on a page, when you interact with the page and when the automated software interacts with the page, it's still pretty different the way it does. So because of overriding these issues, testing can take very long time. So yeah, in this case, it appeared the test works, but I'm not sure what was the difference. So I filled like assess and keep. I waited for 2 seconds. I can actually wait for put cout. So probably the class wasn't correctly mentioned. Like I think it should have been like cout a complete list. Okay, I will try it for wait for element cout class. So yeah, the element is here. So I think this should work now. But actually, if it won't work, it's not a big deal for these cases. Actually, I really want to go to the next steps. So I'm commenting this wait for 2 seconds. I'm putting the check-in month. Then right now I have post execution before the click in the search. Sorry. Let me show the terminal and browser once again. Where is the terminal? Okay, finally. I'm exiting the interactive shell. I click search. And yeah, it displays me key of properties found. So yeah, I saw Kiev, and now I need to check that there was text properties found. So let's, I have this on the slides, I think most of things. And next I would like to introduce is some pragmatical approach with dealing with dates. Because as we saw, hard coding the actual values, actual dates into the check-in fields is not a very good approach because they are really dependent on when do you execute those tests. So we always need to pick some date in the future and in the nearest future, because if you pick like 2014, probably there won't be much hotels available. And you won't be able to book it. And I think the hosts will be pretty surprised if you do actual booking for this year. So what I would really propose to use, which is not actually part of CodeceptJS, but actually the way we should deal with calendars, if date managing tools like Moment.js. So I will install it, and it will allow me to create some date in the future. Like I can tell it like make me a check-in date of in 3 months from today. So I don't know when it will be, but let's do it. So I installed it. It's in my package.json. Where is my package.json? Strange that I don't have a package.json. Here. Okay, so if I have check-in date, and now I will just need to check-in date to show me only the date of check-in, only months. Here, as you see, the auto-completion shows us actually not just the name of the functions, but their fields and values. And now I need to use check-in format. So I'm using this to format dates in like 2 digits for a month, 2 digits for date. Oh, someone is really nicely playing with my screen. Yeah, you can annotate my screen if you have some interesting spots here. And check in year. So let's try this one and pause when we stop. So once again, we are using the standalone moment.js library. We are requiring it here, like any other JS library. We are creating a new date, which are 3 months from here, from today, and then we put in the values of it into our test. That makes our test stable to date changes. So let's go. So where are we going? To give. So we put in the date from July, and yeah, it appears that it's actually fine. We click search. So you see those values were generated. And the nice stuff about CodeceptJS, comparing probably to Cucumber, that we actually work with JavaScript code and we are free to do with it whatever we want. So once we saw some properties found, we want to actually book it. So we want to book the first hotel. So here are some idea. Okay, let's. I think I will go by my own user. Booking.com. I think I will be faster. I'm sorry. I say I have like Cyrillic interface. So yeah, let's go back to the. I will reuse the same session I'm using for automated testing to find out what I'm going to do next. Next I'll be booking a first hotel, and I want to check in. So you see there is a list of different hotels here, and I think for this where did it go? So I think for this type I need to go to book this Valentina apartment, or whatever it is. So we need to pick the first element in a list and click on it. So it's somehow tricky because yeah, we need to specify the first element, but I hope if I select the proper element, you see I can use Google Developer Tool, and probably you use them also, to match the elements. So here's the first element in a list. I can ask Google Chrome for XPath for it and check it how it actually looks. I click, and it looks pretty nice. Surprisingly, the Google Chrome provided me with the simplest locator which was possible. So I think I just can click this, and strangely I clicked but nothing Yeah, you see, if I click it, nothing happens. So looks like I need to click something else than that. Looks like I need to click the Valentina apartment text in it. I click. So you see that I probably typed incorrectly, but looks like the link text can't be so easily handled by the CodeceptJS. So probably it it doesn't found anything clickable like Valentina apartment, because Valentina apartment is not a link, it's inside a span element, you see it. So it didn't work like that. And actually, it won't work in general case as well, because there can be a pretty different hotel here. And yeah, maybe if I, and actually I have a typo. I put 2p in apartment. Let's try again. Oh, now it worked. So actually, CodeceptJS is smarter than I thought about it. And it also opened a window in a new tab, which is very, very noisy to me. But I can do some checks that, yeah, Valentina apartment is on a page, and it's inside the HP hotel name. So I see. Inside H2. So because of this tab switching, we have a browser open to the new tab, but I'm still working with the previous one. That's the problem. And so I switch to next tab, I think. Yeah, and then I see Valentina apartment. Yes, it worked correctly in this case, and that's okay. Like I did previously, I'm just copying all the successful steps into my test. And this one was successful, but it didn't provide us any value. This one was pretty successful, but so let's just go here. Then I clicked it. Then I switched to next tab. Then I saw that this was a new page was opened. So I think when we will execute this test again, we see it failing, and because again we have we have the context on this hotels. So if there will be some other hotels in the list, you won't be able to click it. So what we need actually to get the name of this hotel, instead this Valentina apartment. Let me remove it and replace with the hotel name. So let's go and back again to this step, and we will try to get all the hotel names on a page and pick the first one. So I think I shouldn't have closed this browser session for demonstration, because yeah, booking.com is pretty slow. It's not CodeceptJS slow, it's booking.com. Okay, now it looks like it finally cached all the stuff. And yeah, you see, instead of Ibis, we have Podolsky. We don't see even this Valentina hotel in this list. Yeah. So in this test, we should probably pick this one property name. So actually, we should we see that the element containing a hotel name is inside span with this class. So I will just noted somewhere. So probably we should use this class sr hotel name. Okay, so if I try to, I see element to check that I put correct element into it. Hotel name. It should be successful. So here is what we will do next. We will get all values from this grab from all those elements on page text sorry. Oh, I stopped the interactive shell. Oops. Okay, so actually I don't need the interactive shell anymore. I can work with it in my test. So what I want to do is to get all the hotel names, and for this I need this grab text from, and as it appeared, I need to grab text from all those elements on page, from all those SR hotel names. Then actually I can console log it to ensure that all of them are here. And then I will pick the first one and I'm going to the next step. The problem is this, that I grab text from, it won't work without await, because as I said, if you need some value to be returned to the context of a text from promise, you always need to put await. So if you put await, you need to define that this function is async and await. So usually if you do some JavaScript development or testing, you always need to use async await when you deal with promises. In CodeceptJS, it's not required for all those steps before here, but when we operate with some return values, you want to ensure that this step will actually use this value, you need to put await, because if you won't be do it, the click will be executed before the hotel, this value into click will be passed before the value will be retrieved. So if you have some issues with synchronizing those steps, consider putting await where you feel something is not going correctly. So it's really important to put this await before I grab. But yeah, I think now we can try to work. So I transformed my function to asynchronous function. I put await into a grabber, and I'm using so another problem with the booking.com UI is that element was not clickable at this point. And if you took a notice that the check-in page, so this check-in drop-down was overlapping the search button in our case. So we can just click somewhere on a page to close those check-in stuff. So if I click back to click this SS back, it should close. Click SS element, it should close, and the search button will be visible again. So as you see, Booking.com gives us some really interesting tricks we need to overcome with. So you see now it's another page, and probably we won't face this issue again. Oh no, we actually face the issue, because if I click SS, it displays another popover which hides the SS button. So I will look how did I solve this stuff previously. Oh, I was a bit smarter my previous time. And I just click in the first random div just to ensure this popover is hidden. Now it should work correctly. So as you see, it goes step by step. I clicked some div, I click search. I'm clicking all the places I'm seeing all these places in Kiev. I see properties found. I grab text, and yeah, I got the list of all hotels on a page. It's rendered, and yeah, I'm clicking on first apartment. I'm seeing, and wow, you see how nice it goes. So I actually should like I should say that inside test my intention is that I want to book for a room at so because we pick up this data dynamically, we should put some additional details into the steps list to be able to debug this test when it will accidentally fail, so you can go step by step and see what actual value it will put into the script. So that's why we can use commands. We can disable console log, as we can use this ISay for the same purposes. And yeah, that's pretty ok. Actually, I would also like to show you that there is another interesting operator you can use here, is this within, which allows you to run a few steps inside one context. So as you saw, that we can pass a context to a click as a second parameter. You see it, yeah, as a second parameter. But if you need to perform a few commands inside one context, inside one element, use this within. So within is pretty tricky and pretty magical, so you can't do nested withins. Never do it, they won't work. But if you do it and don't use it very regularly and without a purpose, but if you need just to work on on the first element, like in this case, let's see that I see that hotel name is inside this, and I don't see the second hotel here. Hotel names 1. So let's try. This code will be executed only in a scope of the first hotels in a list. Let's try to execute them. Oh, something wrong, but so something with booking.com, and it didn't wait. It waited for element, but element was not visible, so I need to wait for visible. That's how I should improve my test. Let's go. I click search, see properties found, yes. Within this first, I see Ibis station. Within, I don't see Hotel Florida, but I click on Ibis station. And yeah, I see the Ibis station here. So I think that's a pretty good demonstration. So you see how nice the output goes. So we can actually follow those steps. So let me improve my code here. I wait for visible. and remove this wait. My code is also looks very nice. I put my code here. I put my output here, and you see both look pretty explicit. And what happens there? So you can either read text your test by the output. You can read them by code, and in both ways, very clear what is happening there. So I think for now it's like I'm going to finish all the demonstration, because yeah, we can do actual checkout, but we already have enough of information and out of practical some materials. And you already saw how it works. We saw how to start writing the test with pause operator, how to use within operator here, how to click, do with tabs, and how to discover other actions you can do on page. As you see, there are pretty much of those. And yeah, we have one successful test here. So let me see, do I have anything on my slides? I think no. So thank you for watching, and if you're interested, I can like copy and paste this code to the chat, or maybe to Slack. And if you have some questions, I will unmute you, and you will be able to ask. So if you have questions, I'm opening the chat, and yeah, please ask whatever you want. Is there a way to create code coverage report? So the problem with code coverage report that it in the word code, we don't deal with the code here. Yeah. So how would you expect this test to go to Booking.com and say, hey, Booking, give me your code and we will create a report for you? Booking won't give you a code. We worked with this via the interface. So we don't know how the system works internally. So usually for these acceptance tests, we do not generate code coverage report. It doesn't have any sense, really. So to generate code coverage report, you need to test your system internally with unit tests. And for unit tests, that makes sense. For end-to-end tests, code coverage report has very few sense, only except the cases where your developers are lazy and they do not write tests on their own and they expect to write all tests for you. Then you probably would like to help them and make a code coverage report. So there are technically some ways to do it. We do it in Conception in PHP, but it's not supported in CodeceptJS, and you actually need pretty dirty magic to be used to generate code coverage report from end-to-end tests. So my answer, technically, you can do it if you are really cool, but usually don't. Any other questions? I can, yeah, in chat or in the microphone. Okay, so yeah, I will be on Slack. Oh, actually, in if this demo will be published, so this will be sent to you because you registered here. The video will be sent. I think I already sent all I wrote today, so I think nothing more than this. Good idea to create a Slack channel. Probably I can do it, but I think you will just receive an email with the videos. So I just remembered that I wanted to show you a few features of the new for new CodeceptJS, and I hope I have them prepared here. So if you can think about a few more questions, but I will go to show you. Oh, can Concept open and validate a content of a downloaded file? The next question from Carlo. The problem is that it goes far beyond the scope of browser. Yeah, and if we can't control browser, we probably can't control it with CodeceptJS. So we need to write our own implementation for doing it. So in most cases, the solution to this would be to get a link from a page with igrab text from, which I shown to you. Then run it with run your own request, not from browser but local request. Then download this file, open it, and check it. So you're using Node.js tools to do it. And then you will check it. So you probably need to write your own function. I like download and check. You will need to create your own helper to do it, and use Node.js for this. So that's a short answer. So I will need my okay. Let me switch to my CodeceptJS workspace. So I will show you how currently multi-session execution will happen. So I'm opening one browser page. I'm opening second browser page. They actually can interact both with each other, but they are absolutely not connected. So this feature would be really important if you will do some chat testing. So you can ensure that users can. Let me switch to another console so you could see it more better way. So I will execute it again. So oh, sorry. So for next release, actually, this multi-session testing feature is planned, which is pretty huge, which took really like complex problems to be solved. And yeah, so as you see here, how it looks in output, that I open a page, then I start the next session with a user named John. And John opens the page 2. John says, I see GitHub. But you, as an author, the previous user, say, I don't see GitHub, because on my page info, there was no GitHub. And because my page is info. But I can go to page google.com. And then John continues to work on GitHub. He clicks the link marketplace. But I can continue to work. So there are pretty much more sessions you can use. So if I open editor here and open this test, yeah, you can see the code. The code is pretty clean. So we differentiate the different browser sessions by the username. So we can add another user here. Like Melanie, and Melanie will open booking.com, and she won't see GitHub there. And we can run this test again. So I expect 3 browsers to be opened. Oh. Sorry, I opened another editor. Yeah, I expect 3 browsers to be opened here. So first browser is here, second browser is with GitHub. This third browser is with Booking. So she didn't see. So the browser stays live for all the tests, so different actions is performed. And in the end of a test, all of these browsers will be closed. Oh, no. And we see in this interactive scenario that who did what and how did they interact. So yeah, it would be very, very nice to see how this works for chat. So if you do some chat testing, please wait for the new release, because you will have some fun in testing. And I'm switching back to the chat if you have more questions. The question is, if writing on helpers to check to things like clicking first element or set a date, is this a good practice? Yes, it is a good practice, because helpers are designed just for that. So the initial philosophy I was telling, to move the support code from the test code. And if you created the helper methods to do all this stuff, you actually make your tests more focused on the business scenario and with less technical details. So you probably do better testing than me today. How to create test suites? I've tried to use text, but it's not working. So we don't have conceptual multiple suites. I would like to use text for different features. It just works on the same features. So sorry, I do not text for different features. So actually, let me explain some just. So we don't have any concept like groups or tags, but you see that I have like tag here. So what does it? It just adds some text to a name. So you can filter your tests by their name only. So if you put some like random text in it, it won't execute you any test. But if you put some word that appears only in some tests, you will match this test. So there is no suites, no groups, no text. They're just names, which and you can filter your test by their name. So grep command is for you. I think there are like skip something, which will do the opposite. But that's all the tools you have to filter your tests. And you can also filter by feature too. Oh, another feature which I actually want to make for 1.2, not sure if I get it, is a better locator API. So you could pick the first element, second element, without dealing with a heavy XPath. So instead of writing XPath, you could go as locate user with some attribute value, which actually I did for locating popover when I selected a city. Or locate user with an element next to it. You see the output. So this would make tests much more readable. Locate H1 or H2. Locate H1 with some attributes. Locate H1 with inner text inside. Locate the first element. And yeah, you can even do this complex stuff. So locate first TD in a table near with the edit button in it, and display it as the first clickable element. So I will show this API when it will be ready, but it will help you to write cleaner tests and get cleaner output when you deal with locators. So yeah, API is not finished yet. It's just my draft for it, but I hope you like it. So switching back to chat. Oh, okay, I don't see new questions. Oh, some issues, sorry. Okay, I'll look into issues. Vinicius, sorry, I couldn't look on it currently because I was traveling. Now I'm working on CodeceptJS 1.2, and I'm fully focused on implementing this multi-session stuff. So when I finally get time, I will I will look and try to figure out. So sorry, I'm really I'm really bad in parallelization. So when I do one task, I'm doing it. And the last thing I explained for CodeceptJS 1.2. Let me show. I think we will go just to concept.io. So this actually already in pull request, and it's should be pretty cool, is chunking to run multiple. So what does it mean to you? So this is a pretty huge PR you can actually look into, and here it is. So right now, to run few different threads with tests, you need to specify configuration for different browsers, which is not so nice if you want just to run to Chrome and split your tests between them. So this chunk functionality. You just say, I want to run all my tests in Chrome, but split all those tests into chunks, and it will randomly split tests into 2 groups and execute all of them into separate browsers. So here's the documentation, and the good thing that you can override this chunks. So if you want to split chunks by some other behavior you would like to work, so probably features of one of some features go to one group, some features to others. So you can fully control it if you override these chunks with the function, and you can control the flow. But for the simplest cases, just say chunks 2, chunks 3, or whatever chunks you like, and you will have like parallel testing for your tests. So how does it look to you? Okay, so if there are no more questions, and we are did it in 2 hours, and it's pretty late here. Yeah, so Andreas likes the last feature, and yeah, I will merge this pull request when everything else will be prepared for 1.2. So sorry for a bit of delay, but I want to make a big, nice release, and that will be it. So yeah, if there will be no other questions, so just thank you for watching. So thank you for participating, and you will get the video. And yeah, see you. I am on Slack if you have other questions. So thanks everyone, and have a good weekend. Bye bye.